all of a sudden it's like, you're done with it. Check the box. And you're not like, no, what do I do?
I know.
That's how it was when we got back from Kyrgyzstan. And like, we looked for this trip for like 6 months of it coming up. It was done. We flew home. We're like, what do we have to look forward to now?
That's the weird thing about those big trips. All that anticipation, you're waiting.
Yeah.
Then this one especially was a blur.
It was a rabbit flash, that's for sure.
The travel fever made this one feel really weird.
Yeah. I've been talking to several people about that. Like, there's a guy I talked to the other day who's going over there, and I was like, just set it up for an adventure just to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it happens, and then you have an adventure going home again.
Yeah. I knew it was going to be bad. I never anticipated the travel would be what we actually ran into. We should break down how it went, because we started the stopwatch out of Bozeman.
Yeah.
And then for months, you had been giving me a lot of grief over booking through United, not Delta. But I had a travel disaster last year on Delta trying to do the South Africa hunt.
Yeah.
Where we were stuck in Atlanta for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So United I felt good about, but it definitely backfired a little bit.
Tiny bit.
So the first thing we ran into was in Bozeman.
Yeah. Like, when I set small little parameters for you. No United. No afternoon flights. And one airline, I think, is what it was.
Yeah.
Then what happened? I can't remember.
I broke all your rules. It was
your virtual assistant did.
Yeah. Who's no longer with us.
Yeah.
We booked United in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right away, we walk in the airport, me, you, and Eric, and our flight coming out of Bozeman is delayed on United because of afternoon thunderstorms hitting Denver, which is where we needed to get to. And then remember that young guy at the counter was like a miracle worker.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, look, man, we're going to miss our Istanbul connection. And most people don't generally care. This guy was like working the computer system over.
He was. We were watching the last call going on. And we're like, are we on this flight or not? He's like, hold on. Because I can get you to San Francisco and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, San Francisco here. And then he's like, I think I can get you on to Denver and still make the flight. And I think we got to Denver, and I think we could have made that flight to Turkey. I can't remember, but everything was already jumbled up then.
Yeah, that kid was working. He's like, put their bags on, take them back off, pull the bags.
Yeah.
And then he's like, go, go, go. Like, there's on there. That was the first 5 minutes of our travel adventure.
Yeah. I was starting to get worried in my mind, like, oh, don't become the worry guy. Don't do it. Hold your breath. Don't say anything.
Then we get to Denver. We were delayed. Because of the delay, we missed Istanbul.
Yep.
And that's when it really got bad. Started to get bad.
And then we had to go find our luggage and pull everything off. And then we met that really, really nice baggage lady. We met nice people the whole way across, except till we got to Germany. Then,
oh yeah,
I don't ever need to go back there again.
I forgot we went to Germany.
Yeah,
yeah, that breakfast sausage. So Denver was pretty interesting because we missed Istanbul, and then they told us it was game over, and then they told us it was game on through Dubai. Then I went to the bathroom. I came out of the bathroom, and you and Eric were standing there letting me know that a supervisor needs to chat with us. And I thought you were messing with me.
Oh, yeah. This is the next morning when we spent the night in Denver, had a nice, lovely breakfast at, I can't remember the hotel. We got up at 10 o'clock, or what? We had to be back at the airport at 10 o'clock. It was like no problem. On a flight to Emirates, or no, tied to, where are we going? Saudi Arabia somewhere.
Yeah,
Dubai. So we're all set to go, like, sweet, we're going to Dubai now. This is awesome, right? I was like, that's where I wanted to go all along. So this is working out perfectly. So we get to that point, and all of a sudden, we're checked into Dubai. We're upstairs past TSA, that whole mess. And then, yeah, you ran to the bathroom. And then Eric and I, somehow the guns now got put into Eric's name, not yours anymore. And then we get the call over the speakers like, oh, that's the gun deal. And so, yeah, so we meet up. And we're like, hey, man, we just got called on the radio as they're boarding
for Dubai.
Dubai, yeah. And I'll let you take it from there because you get the shock and awe value.
Yeah, I come out of the bathroom and Eric has his phone out filming, and he's like, hey, man, we got to talk to this supervisor guy.
What was his name?
Freddie. And I was like, no, we don't. And he's like, yeah, for real. And I was like, well, obviously you're pranking me because you got your phone out. There's no way we're talking to Freddie. And Freddie is a giant human also. So he's like...
in pink.
Yeah. He is probably like 6'4", 270, and not like a super healthy 270, but he's wearing...
like a Twinkie 270.
he's wearing the tightest suit vest ever that is like pink or purple.
Yeah.
But he was a cool dude.
He was good.
Yeah.
Although at the beginning conversation, he's like, hey, dude, sorry, you're not going to Dubai. They won't let you in. Talk to you later. And we're like, what? Stop. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you have to be a 3-day notice
for firearms
to take firearms into Dubai. It's like, so what are we going to do, Freddie? He's like, go back down to ticketing and they'll straighten you out. And we're like, absolutely not.
The amount of bags we had too.
Oh yeah.
We had 2 hard cases for firearms and then like 7 big dry bags.
Yeah.
But Freddie, he had that weird sense of humor where you didn't know if he was really helping us or not.
I don't think he was at the beginning.
And then he pulled it together.
Yeah. I think you and him had to come to Jesus somewhere.
Yeah.
But we're like, what are we going to do now?
So he leaves us at this counter, and then he goes over to the computer with a computer guy. And Dubai is fully boarded now, so we missed that one. Mm-hmm. And it did not look good. There was several times where it looked like trip was over. We were going to have to come back to Bozeman, but it was starting to get weird to even figure out how you'd come back to Bozeman because we didn't really know where our bags were at or where our bags were headed. He works on the computer for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he comes over. He's like, I saved the trip. You guys are going to Frankfurt, Germany.
Yep. Which is great. I always want to see Germany.
Yeah. Germany was pretty nice.
No, it was not nice. So it's 4-hour layover now from our Dubai departure to the Frankfurt one, right? So we get up there, we're getting ready to go, and all of a sudden our names get called again. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Trying to board for Frankfurt.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, was that guy Customs?
HSI, Homeland.
Homeland Security pulls us from the plane.
Full tactical kit.
Yeah. Another awkward conversation.
What was that guy's deal?
That guy wanted to make sure that we weren't going to the Ukraine to go fight.
In the war.
Yeah, in the war.
That part freaked me out because that guy was really nice.
He was nice.
He was in full tactical kit, and he's like, look, guys, a lot of Americans are going over to fight in Ukraine.
And getting us in trouble.
They're getting us in trouble. We don't want to piss Russia off.
He's like, I don't have a problem with it, but just tell me you're not going to Ukraine. You're not Blackwater. It's like, do we look like Blackwater?
And then he goes, all you need to do is show me a couple receipts of this hunt. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, this was basically all built over a couple text messages. Yeah. We got like one fake receipt looking thing. And I showed him that, and he's like, all right, you guys are good to go. Yeah.
We bored.
He did. It sounded like he checked out our firearms, though.
I think he did. He went and looked at all that stuff and whatnot. And he's like, definitely these guys are not going to go over there and fight with 100 rounds of ammo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. So what happened in Germany?
Germany, so when Freddie booked us, he goes, just go talk to the gate agent when you get to Germany for your flight to Istanbul, and they'll give you your seat assignments. And that was another red flag in my world that just popped up. And I'm like, audible.
Because, he sent us to Germany without any tickets.
Without tickets,
yeah.
Period. So I'm like, God, doesn't seem right. And I think Freddie's just like, gone. I don't have to deal with those guys anymore.
He just got us out of his hair.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what was going to happen to us.
Yeah, so we landed in Frankfurt in the morning. I think it was like 5 o'clock in the morning Frankfurt time, something like that. We rolled in there, get off the plane, and then none of us speak German at all, at least that I was aware of. And we walked up to go talk to this fine young woman who was the gate agent for us going to Istanbul. And there's another American, I think he's American, that was already struggling with the situation.
Was struggling.
Yeah, he was on the call with United, and this woman was giving him no help at all. I'm like,
she was not helpful.
And I didn't want to talk to her at all. I wanted nothing to do with this girl.
That was because we had to switch right there to Turkish Airlines.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it was, going from United to Turkish, which, United's like, oh, you're good to go. Like, we got you here. You're done.
So she just gave us like the stink eye, said it had to be handled through United.
Yeah, call United.
We call United. Of course, you go on hold for like 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And so we're coming on and off hold. They're boarding the plane to Istanbul, which is one we really needed to make because we'd already missed one.
And we had something like an itinerary that said, we're going to Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
We had an email. She's like, your names don't come up on the tickets. Like, well, you're supposed to do that. And she was adamant, like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, she did not like
and
Americans.
We were like, what the heck is going on here? This doesn't make sense. Why is this woman not helping us or anything like that? That flight completely boards, right? And here we are left again like, well, nowhere to go here.
Yeah.
So
then
and with no knowledge of why this happened. We got a whole United's like, you're good to go. And Turkish is like, you're not good to go.
And it was crazy because we were starting to count down the days of how many days of the hunt we were going to miss.
Yeah.
Because we knew that this was a 10-day Kyrgyzstan Ibex hunt, and we were going to have 4 days of travel, 6 days of hunting.
Yeah.
When we were working with Freddie, we had already missed that original Istanbul, so that put it down to 5 days of hunting.
Yep.
That knocked off a day in Denver just with that fiasco. So now this second big meltdown in Germany, missing the second big Istanbul connection, that was going to put us at 4 days of hunting instead of 6.
Yeah.
So we're slowly chipping away. And the more it chipped away, the more it made us wonder, do we still go to Kyrgyzstan or do we go back home and try again another day?
Yeah.
But then getting back home was just as hard as getting to Kyrgyzstan.
Well, now we're in Germany, right? And remember, we had to go through customs to go from one terminal to the other, and we're like, we don't have visas. What are they going to do to us? We got somehow cycled into this customs line, and we're like backplaying, like we don't want to go through this.
Yeah,
we don't have any visas. We don't know how to get in or out. We don't know what happens on the other side of the door, right? Are we completely like in limbo in Germany in between two different custom lands, or what's happening here?
It was like a Jason Bourne video right there. We're just like pulling out passports, they're stamping them, and then we'd get stuck on the wrong side of the airport. We'd have to come back through customs.
Yeah.
They'd stamp them again, but we didn't know who to talk to or what was going on.
No, nothing was making, and nobody wanted to talk to us at all.
Mm-mm.
Turkish Airlines.
So we laid on the ground in the middle of like a lobby aisle. And we spent an hour or so on the phone with United,
mm-hmm.
which was a mess because they were going to fix your ticket. And they're going to send you to that weird country.
I was going to the capital of Istanbul, which I don't know where it was anymore. It's some weird name. It was like
capital of Turkey.
Turkey, that's right.
Yeah.
My bad. Capital of Turkey. And And then we were all in agreement, like, yep, that's what we're doing. And all of a sudden, you read your itinerary back, and you're going back to Istanbul, and I'm going to another place. Like, nope, let's not cancel that. Don't hit okay.
It was about to split us up.
Yeah. And somehow, we're getting limited on seats, right? I think there's like only 4 seats left.
Mm-hmm.
And you had 2 spots designated. You're good. And then your lady took you off of those and moved you onto mine. And my lady took me off that and moved on to yours. So we were flipped again. And finally we got everything right. And they're like, okay, you guys have seats. We're like, are we sure? Oh, yeah, you got seats. So we rolled back up there to the gate agent and like, you don't have seats. Oh, remember that?
Yeah.
We're like, what is going on? These Turkish Airlines want nothing to do with us. And some young, like, I'm sure she's a high schooler that was working the thing over a break.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, why are you guys going over there? We're going to hunt. Well, do you have guns? Yeah, we have guns. Well, you need to fill out this paperwork.
Oh, yeah. That was like the gem that unlocked everything.
Yeah, it's just like in that Legends of Zelda, we turned the key and a whole new room opened up for us.
We unlocked like a secret zone.
Yeah.
We had to pay like $100 for those permits.
Yeah, that was another debacle.
Yeah.
So the girl's like, okay, you need to talk to that person. And we looked at that gal and we're like, ooh, she doesn't look nice either. Remember that? Yeah. So
we were looking for the nicest looking person we could find.
Yeah. So, and we got to the point where it just got comedy of the. All we had to do was fill out our name, our passport number, and then our baggage claim ticket for the gun, and that was it. I think our paperwork we had to hand over to them. It took 2 hours. They boarded the plane and got everybody going. We're the last ones playing on again. They had to go find our guns. Delineate, like, yep, they have guns.
Serial numbers,
baggage checks, all of our baggage to get on there. And then it came down to like, all right, there's the last person just got on the plane to go to Turkey.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't worry about it. I was like, oh, we're worried about it because we've missed every flight so far. And they're like, all right, now you just need to pay. Like, we'll give them cash.
Yeah.
Nope, no cash.
They wouldn't take cash.
No. So I was like, here's my credit card. And like, all right, first $100 bill. You know, they ran the credit card, it worked. It was your turn.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, who knows what happened? Murphy stepped in again, denied.
That was the weirdest thing ever. With seconds left, you pay for your gun permit. Now you're good. Now we need to pay for mine. The plane's like ready to back away from the tarmac. And I run my card. It's denied for my gun permit.
Yeah.
So then I run a different card, denied.
Eric card,
Eric
denied.
card, denied.
One of my cards, denied.
Yeah. Then we try the same card that you had just ran, denied. And they're like, oh, man, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so then the guy, like the supervisor, he's like, just get on the plane, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So we board with one legal gun permit and one not gun permit. Mm-hmm. And we just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Taking off now from Germany to Istanbul.
Yep. And this is when. Yeah, so we had to talk to somebody or have interviews with somebody on every flight. So we're going to Istanbul and like, heck yeah, we made it. You know, we're almost home free. One more flight. We get off the plane and another pre-college gal,
she's waiting,
pulls us off the plane.
She's waiting for Eric because the gun is accidentally in Eric's name instead of my name. All the way back from Denver.
Yeah. And then she's like, you three stand here. And we're in it's the aisleway where you get off the plane and you walk the catwalk to the main artery of the airport. And we're stuck here again in limbo. I can't go anywhere. And the girl disappears. Like 15 minutes. And we have to catch the flight to Bishkek in an hour and 20 minutes. Another international flight.
That lady did not like us either at all. No. You know what? The funny part I just randomly thought of that we forgot to mention, just a side note, is remember when that lady coded and passed out next to Eric
on the
flight
first
from Bozeman to Denver?
Yes.
And then they had they had to drop her to the ground, give her oxygen, and then the paramedics had to pull her off the flight.
Yeah.
That was flight number 1.
So, and I kept thinking, you know how there's the whole Murphy thing, right?
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. We had signals every stretch of the way. Like, I'm telling you now, every stop, there was something that's like, don't go, don't go, don't go. You know what?
If we would have died in Kyrgyzstan, it would have made perfect sense.
It would have
They'd be
made
like,
sense,
Well, I
yeah.
told you 13 times not to go.
Exactly. You're dumb right now.
But then it became like a mental toughness game. At a certain point, it was like, well, if you quit now, you're kind of weak.
You just give it into it.
Yeah.
And we're all the time, I'm sure all of us are like, okay, Audible, who's going to call it?
I know. It was kind of like, who's going to quit first? And then we'll all just quit. But then quitting was just as hard as not quitting.
Well, you had to fight your way back out again anyhow. So
Yeah.
what's the point, right?
Yeah.
What's the point at this point?
But that grouchy lady in Istanbul, she stormed us to the counter.
While she's walking TikTok the entire time.
She's TikToking, power walking, and still she didn't tell us why she stopped us. So I was like, well, now we're going to jail in Istanbul.
Yeah.
And she took us like a quarter mile across one of the largest airports I've ever seen.
It was an awesome airport.
Yeah.
Like, that was one thing I was looking forward to when we came back, was like exploring it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like the world's biggest mall.
It was.
So
It has New
fancy.
York City right down there.
And all she needed, which she never told us till we got there, was to now pay the $100 for Eric's gun, which was my gun,
Yeah.
which now we did, and the card worked fine, and we were good to go. But because of the quarter-mile walk and the delay, we had to rush to the Bishkek flight.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're finally going to Kyrgyzstan, and it's looking good.
It's looking great, right?
Yeah.
Everybody like, you're everything's good. Your planes are gonna make, your guns are gonna make it. Everything's perfect.
Everything's paid for. We got
Yeah.
all our permits.
I remember looking, and we all sat together for the first time the air flight from Istanbul to Bishkek, and we're like, oh my God, this is actually happening. We're gonna go see it, you know it.
So
And at this point, I think it was a 5-hour flight, which is at this point now at hour.
it's nothing.
I have to look back and see where we were, but it's like hour 54 in the travel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 5-hour flight. That's like gonna go get a donut.
Yeah.
It's easy.
They're just a chip
Let's
shot.
get this done. Yeah,
And that flight went good.
it did.
It was smooth. We land in Bishkek. This like VIP service thing comes and gets you off the plane.
Some crazy electric car.
It's super nice kid. He like treats you like royalty.
Yeah.
He loads all your bags in like a generic Tesla. And then he takes you to like some secret room
Uh-huh.
that has like crackers and nuts and coffee and tea.
Yeah.
And then the rest of our crew is waiting there for us. So now Barrett's there.
Oh, wait, I forgot about Barrett because he had the same issues.
Yeah.
He had a bomb scare in
Newark.
and sat for 3 hours outside on the tarmac in Newark waiting to flight. And there was a question if he was going to make it.
The whole trip was jinxed since the beginning.
100%.
Yeah, so Barrett gets stuck on a bomb threat in Newark. He ends up making it to Bishkek a day before us.
Mm-hmm.
He hangs out in the capital with Jeremy, who helped coordinate the whole trip.
Oh, yeah.
And they're waiting for us. We finally arrive in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan.
Like 4 in the morning or something like that, 5 in the morning.
Yep.
And those guys are all there.
And at this point, we think we have 4 days we can hunt.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 6. We think if we rally now, we have 4 days. We're in this weird little fancy like VIP waiting room thing. It's like separate from the whole airport.
Yeah.
And
Which I'm going to tell everybody now that does this stuff, always opt for the VIP.
Always.
Anytime you're going overseas with guns, if there's a thing that's going to expedite all your gun paperwork through, anything, check yes. Do ask whatever you can, because I did that, and then I went to Africa a couple of weeks later after this trip. It did the same thing, and you don't have to worry about anything. You pretty much go into a room, some guy meets you, grabs your paperwork, grabs your guns, does all the customs work, and comes back, hands it to you, and you don't have to do anything.
it's like $100.
Yeah, I'll tell you now. every time I've gone into Mozambique once. It didn't have that luxury, and I had to pay through the teeth to get out of the airport.
The guns just trigger so many red flags
every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we walk into VIP. We're feeling great. We meet Sultan, who's our local Kyrgyzstan.
Which we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
He was like, who's this guy? Turns out he's the guy that's run the hunt.
Which that was confusing because he was kind of like, he's really nice and a nice guy, but you could tell he's not the guy that's taking us into the mountains. You're like, this guy's never been on a mountain in his life.
No, he's in Gucci sweatpants and designer loafers, and
he had those pinstripe sweatpants. I was like, he's not hiking with us. But he was like the organizer of the locals that would be hiking with us. But we still had a major problem because we're in Bishkek, but our guns did not make it.
They didn't make it.
And your stopwatch at this point, I think we landed in Bishkek. The stopwatch running on Peter's watch since we left Bozeman, I think it was at 72 hours.
It was getting big.
So that's
laughable big.
72 hours of travel time to land in Kyrgyzstan, but we landed without firearms. The firearms are now lost, essentially.
They're in Istanbul, in theory. Because we know they made it from Istanbul. No, we knew they made it from Frankfurt to Istanbul.
Because we were paying those card fees.
And because that's the last documentation we had on them. And then Istanbul, they took another $100 for us for who knows what now. All of our other bags get there. And we get up the thing in the VIP room. They came down and throw down like our other 6 bags. They're like, oh, you're good to go. It's like, hold up. There's one tool here, or 2 tools here that we don't have.
People should know that there's a lot of $100 fees when you go international. Everyone's like, yeah, that'll be $100. And you're just swiping for $100 all the time.
Yep.
But the gun thing cracked me up because Sultan, our main guy now, he's like, no problem.
Yeah.
I have a Russian AK, and a guy I know at the base camp has an old 300 Win Mag. You guys will be fine without your guns. You can either use the AK or the Win Mag.
Yeah. And Jeremy has his 300 Win Mag too. I'm like, all right, well, at least, and to preface that, Jeremy's an Alaskan outfitter and travels all over the world. And he's like, I got my gun there too. I was like, that's perfect. Sig's going to be really mad about this.
I know. That was the part we have to let listeners know is the Kyrgyzstan hunt was, part of it was a filmed hunt so that we could showcase Sig's new sawtooth.
Yeah.
So just hunting Ibex with an AK was not going to work because the whole reason for the Kyrgyzstan Ibex hunt was for a hunting film where we could showcase Sig's new sawtooth rifle, which we now do not have.
Yeah, it's lost. It's a gun that hasn't even been released to the public yet. I think there's like 4 of them in there.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
There's 4 of these guns out there at this point.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are sitting in security in Istanbul.
Yeah. So, and now I'm already waiting to talk to legal about that one. It's like, so, and then it gets better because then Sultan's like, this is what we're going to do. No problem. You guys are going to drive to the hunting camp and I'll have somebody pick up the guns tomorrow on the flight. I was like, assuming they come. Yeah, assuming they come. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is good or not. So we said yes. And when we thought drive, we're like
from Bozeman to Billings or something.
Yeah, weird rumors. There's like, a little bit of a trip. So I think 72 hours now we pull into our VIP room and we're like, all right, and there's mountains everywhere from where we land in Bishkek. It's just beautiful, man. It looks awesome. And like, oh, we're just going to the mountains to go hunt. 10 hours later.
Yeah.
And a taxi driver.
Yeah.
Who we thought was one of our guides. Turns out he's just a taxi man. Drove us for 6.5 hours on blacktop, dodging semis coming at us. You and Eric are asleep. I was like, oh, God, this is where we die.
That drive, man, was so weird because I did think he was one of our outfitters. But we
all did, yeah.
And then he doesn't say a single word. So, and we have no clue what's going on. But then remember he pulled into that rest stop and we hadn't eaten in like 2 days. He pulled into that rest stop and he's like, bathrooms that way. And then he went the other way.
Yeah.
And he like snuck into a cafe and was eating like this huge steak and rice dinner, but he didn't tell us that we could eat. But then we didn't have any Kyrgyzstan money.
Yeah. So the Sultan and Jeremy, the host of this trip, who organized everything, and Barrett are all in one outfit. They beat off and they're gone. We're in this taxi, which we thought was one of our guides or outfitters. And all of a sudden the guy hops out, points to us, bathrooms. We go over to where the bathroom is like, is this a guy's bathroom or a girl's bathroom? You know, we're in a pretty Muslim country. We're like,
Yeah.
what do? We could get beheaded if we go in the wrong bathroom right now.
Yeah. There's no toilets. It was just like a trough.
In a hole, yeah.
Yeah.
So we stand guard. Like, all right, you go in.
Oh, man, that taxi ride was weird.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, too, it's like when he said, I'll just try to send a driver the next day with your guns, that would be like us sending a driver the next day from Bozeman to Fernie, British Columbia.
Yeah.
So you would send a driver 10 hours to retrieve those guns from the airport a day late, and then 10 hours back to where the base camp was.
Yeah.
And for Sultan, it was like, no big deal. He's like, yeah, I'll just send a driver.
Yeah.
10 hours out and 10 hours back just to retrieve 2 guns.
And I was like, what the heck?
And it's not like a smooth interstate.
Yeah, remember, so we meet, all of a sudden we pull into some random house.
Oh,
At the base of this Iskul Lake. And then we all get out and have lunch in somebody's house. And then next thing you know, we're like, all right, unload all your gear. We're like, what? And the taxi driver buzzes off and leaves us standing there with no gear, our gear on the ground, and then no other ride. And then finally Sultan shows up with Barrett and Jeremy. And then we're like, oh, I guess we are supposed to meet here. We load our stuff into another vehicle, and it's getting to be dark. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon. We have good lunch.
Yeah.
And everybody's still kind of wondering, like, what's going on?
No one's talking. No one's
Nobody's
telling us
talking.
what's going on.
No.
Yeah. We're just at some random house.
Yeah, you just got to go with it, right? Murphy, you got nothing on this thing.
Oh, my wife would freak out on a trip like that. Like, you don't know if you're going to get kidnapped. Everyone wants $100. We had to pay that taxi guy $100.
Yep.
But we still have no clue where we're at, where we're headed, why we're at some house, why we're eating lunch at that house. You're just rolling with everything.
Yeah. You're just going to get rolled somewhere.
The next drive was the worst, too, because now we leave that town, we head into the mountain.
Who are you? You are now in the vehicle with.
I was with Barrett.
Yeah, you switched outfits. You were with Barrett and Jeremy.
And Jeremy was sick. Remember, he was
Jeremy
like in the fetal position on the bottom of the Land Cruiser.
The dude's got pneumonia.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He did that 6-hour drive laying on the floor with like his Stone Glacier Puffy over him.
It didn't talk at all.
And I hadn't met him before, so it's like, this guy's going to die.
Yeah, he just looks ill. We're like, just stay here, man.
So we're driving to base camp, and now we're heading into the mountains, which was awesome.
Yeah.
You go through that national park.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, there's that spot. There's an eagle and it was an Ibex and a snow leopard.
Yeah,
the gateway is like, holy smoke, this is awesome.
Yeah, everything's above 12,000 feet.
Yeah.
It looks like Montana.
Mm-hmm.
It looks a lot like Montana, Idaho, because it's on the same parallel.
Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's definitely that point where everything became like cinematic.
Uh-huh.
And then you're like, okay, we're good. I felt like, all right, wherever we're going now, it's not far and we're here for a while.
But that was a long drive.
And bumpy.
And then you have those weird military checkpoints.
Yeah, we had a bunch of military checkpoints, so we don't know what was going on.
Because we're getting close to China.
Yeah.
So the hunting zone we went into in Kyrgyzstan was 40 miles from China. And so Sultan said the military checkpoints were because Chinese guys like sneak across and cause a bunch of problems.
Yeah, and that's a big smuggling route for them. It turns out was like they're rolling over those mountains from China into Kyrgyzstan,
Yeah.
and then transferring out of that country.
Which is nuts because that
Weird to think
mountain,
about.
that mountain that separated us from where we were at to Kyrgyzstan was 19,900 feet.
Yeah,
It's wild.
God, those things were awesome, weren't they?
What did you think when we arrived at base camp in the Connex box?
So we arrived at night, right? Mm-hmm. And we get in there, and you can't see anything. It's black. You can see just an epic line of stars and stuff like that. And it's mostly our constellation that we're familiar with at home. But for some reason, I pictured us in this massive forest because we got out of the truck, and it sounded like there's trees next to us, and the wind was blowing. It's just blowing through the trees like, oh, man, we must be in a hell of a forest right now. And I was like, that's kind of cool. You know, we're in it, you know.
Yeah.
And then we go in and we're pretty much sleeping in Connex boxes that got turned into this small little room. And we walked into the front door, and there's like, it's 11 o'clock at night. We're bone tired. I don't know what the stop clock says at this point, but there's this massive display of food set on the table.
Oh, yeah, the whole table's covered.
Oh,
in
yeah,
food.
there's a fruit bowl that sat there for the entire 7 days that would have made so much more room on our table for us to eat on.
The table was so full.
Yeah.
Nuts, chocolates,
Yeah.
everything.
Fruits, all that stuff. Yeah. It was a different world, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so we rolled in there. It's 11 o'clock at night, and everybody's tired. We're like, we don't need anything. We'll just go to bed. And they feed us like an entire, like, 4-course meal, like salad, soup,
Yeah.
meal, and then a dessert. And all of us are just, we're done. This is our first night sleeping on beds in 70-some hours. We get into bed. We eat dinner. Everybody's there. We're visiting with something. They're talking in Russian on one side of the table. We're talking in English on the other side of the table. Everybody's laughing. They're laughing at us like, oh, you guys going to have fun. And that's about all we can translate out of this whole deal. You're finally here.
No guns, though.
No guns.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's happening in the morning. We eat this meal with the itinerary, like, we're going to go do something tomorrow. Who knows what it is? Because we know it's a 10-hour drive for our guns to get there, assuming they show up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We go to bed, and then at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, we get a knock on our door, don't we? And neither of us know where we are.
I forgot about that. Sultan stormed into our room.
Yeah. Pizza, Dustin. And we're like, oh, what? I'm like, we're getting raided.
Oh, yeah. He's like, need the lock codes. Mm-hmm. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
'cause
your
he woke
keys
us out of a
didn't
dead
work.
sleep. Yeah. No, I bought the cheap Amazon
Yeah, you
gun
did.
case locks. And even though the code was correct, it wouldn't open the lock.
Yeah.
So one of Sultan's friends is at the airport. Our guns arrived on the next Istanbul flight.
Yeah.
But he needs to show the guns to their version of Homeland Security to get the guns out of the airport, which later on we found out he essentially like bribed our guns out of the airport.
No, they cut your locks off.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
They cut them.
Here's another footnote. When you travel,
Get the
travel
good
with
locks.
combination locks and something you don't need a key for.
Definitely buy the nicer locks.
Yeah,
The
spend the
Amazon
$50.
ones are not good. They jammed up on the way home.
Oh,
too.
yeah. When we got back to U.S. Customs, they had to cut them again.
They were only like $9. But that was a good sign because we knew that our guns were in country.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We get that phone call or that knock on the door. And then I don't think any of us got back to sleep again. We just like, all right, our guns are here. So we got up, just kind of milled around. And then that morning, we're like, what are we going to do? Our guns are 10 hours out. There's 4 of us here. And Jeremy's like, well, I got a gun. So like, well, let's let's go check zero, I guess, and figure out what's going on. He's like, oh, it's fine 2 days ago. I was like, well, let's just go check zero. It's 8 inches high, and he has no tools to fix the zero on it.
Yeah, you needed a little tiny.
Yeah,
Allen.
so it's like at 400 yards, I know you just hold dead center. That's where we're at right now. He's like, that's good enough. I was like, no, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's a Kimbered gun and Leupold scope. It's like, this is definitely not going to work.
It's not going to work for the film.
Not going to play.
The Sig sponsored film.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
It was beautiful, though, waking up in the morning.
Yeah,
just surrounded by the most beautiful mountains ever.
No trees like I expected. It was a river, like one of those
glacier rivers.
Yeah, I mean, the minute you stepped out there, you were like, oh my God, look at this country.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, you see pictures like Eric gave me that photo. The colors there just lasted all day long. It was just epic looking.
Yeah,
all day long. And that's one thing, guys. It was all about the adventure of this hunt. I could care less if we shot an Ibex or not, but just being in that country and seeing what it was and everything else, that made the trip right then and there.
Unreal country, and it's endless.
Yeah.
Like glacier rivers the size of the Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Like every other bend. And then they're that teal, like milky teal color.
Yeah, it's all that cirque water.
Yeah.
It's beautiful looking stuff.
And there's drainage. Everywhere you look is a drainage you'd like to explore someday.
Mm-hmm.
The Kyrgyzstan, I think they say is 99% mountainous.
Yeah.
90%. And it's the size of Montana-ish, North Dakota.
Was it that big?
Maybe it was North Dakota
I think
size.
it's just, it wasn't as big as Montana.
But almost all mountainous.
Yeah.
And then everything that we were hiking through was 10, 11, 12, 13. But you could definitely go up higher than that.
You could if you wanted to get into it, yeah.
Yeah.
You could definitely feel it.
Beautiful country, though.
Yeah.
And so that first day was funny, though, because we checked Jeremy's gun. We decided that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so then they say our guns will be ready for the next day.
Yep.
And then the next day we can actually go into the backcountry. But they wanted to do a big scouting day. So they took us up on the horses into Ibex country, which was awesome. The horse adventure was pretty wild.
Oh, that was perfect. That's great. I was prepared for that part.
So many times I just thought I was going to die on a horse. I was sure of it.
Meanwhile, I was thinking, God, our daughter's about the same age or whatever. They're both horse fanatics. Like, God, they would love this. Until like the third day, like, maybe we shouldn't bring the girls on this one.
The saddles are just a blanket tied to the horse.
Yeah, it's a tree and then a saddle pad that the guides sleep on and then a cinch, essentially, that goes over the saddle pad.
And then your guides don't speak English.
Mm-mm.
I remember that first time we crossed the river, we're on the horse for the first 5 minutes, and my horse just took off, Apache, and I couldn't get him to stop. And I finally did, and that main older guide with us gave me the biggest stink eye I've ever seen. And then he came over and tied my reins in a knot like I was a little kid. I was like, oh my God.
You had your powers taken away.
He's like, just hold this knot. The knot was like right behind the horse's head.
Yeah.
So I just kept that the whole time because Apache would just take off randomly.
Those horses are epic, though.
Oh, they can move.
Oh, my God.
Straight up, straight down.
That definitely made the country. And that's what, that country is horse country.
Mm-hmm.
In and out, up and down all day long. That's just horse country.
Have you ever seen like an American horse work like that, like on an elk hunt?
Oh, they would die.
It was nuts.
A mule might be able to keep pace with what those things were doing, like a gaited mule, but it'd wear our horses out. But you could tell they were specifically bred for that. And it sounds like, the Genghis Khan would come over and raid those Kyrgyzstan camps for that special breed of horse, which is kind of, when we started delving into the history of that place and some of the stuff that we saw on the way in and out once we did start hunting.
Yeah.
It's all pre-Bible stuff.
It's wild.
It was pretty cool.
Oh, we rode by some mass gravestones.
Yeah.
That they said were like a whole tribe had just been massacred.
Yep. Hundreds of people in this. And there's like 15 of these like different burial grounds, like these big mounds that were probably 30 yards long by 15 yards wide. And I finally asked guys, like, what is that? And the biggest thing he said was like, he made the mark of death and said, long, long time ago. I'm like, and we were thinking like, you know, some civil war or something like that happened. And it was like
biblical time.
Yeah, it's before the biblical times, you know, AD stuff. Or no, BC stuff.
Yeah, BC.
Yeah.
There's pictograph stuff all over.
Yeah.
That country's unreal.
Golly. And you think like all the history of that, like the salt roads and the silks and all that stuff and Genghis Khan, that was all in that country. Which even made it like, it made the trip so much shorter. I mean, there's so much stuff to explore. And we, honest to God, when we got to the actual hunt itself, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling a lot of friends is the Ibex seemed to kind of be everywhere.
It was like antelope in the eastern Montana.
Yeah, because the country does a phenomenal job at conservation. Conservation's a big deal for them, at least in Kyrgyzstan. I don't know with all the stands, but Sultan was telling me that there was only there's 300 Ibex permits a year for Kyrgyzstan. So that would be like if Montana only had 300 elk hunters, you would have these phenomenal populations of elk. And that's what it felt like, where every drainage they took us up to, as soon as you got above the grass line into the rock line, you started seeing Ibex.
Yeah.
Exactly where it's the exact same country of Montana mountain goat's going to want to live in.
Yep.
Where maybe they'll come to the grass in the morning to feed, but generally they're just going to stay on the cliffs, stay on the rocks, looking down. There was probably not a drainage over there that we weren't going to find Ibex.
Everything had them, and it was definitely a plethora of Ibex for sure. And once we got deeper in that stuff, that we started seeing Marco Polo and stuff like that too. Yeah, which were lower than those Ibex. But
Marco Polo down low was cool.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I saw some of those Ibex, some of those places they were, and like, God, I hope we don't have to go into that.
Nasty country. Yeah. They just like a goat. They're on the nastiest cliff you can find.
Yeah.
That's where the Ibex want to be. Yeah.
Yeah, they love looking down on everything. If there's anything even remotely like jutting out of something, there's definitely an Ibex on top of it, looking down over everything, which you can't blame them for liking a good scenic spot, you know?
Yeah. Big animal. And they're over there. They're good. The locals are definitely big on mature animals only. So there's a lot of Ibex, but they are definitely wanting all hunters to look for those 8 and 9-year-olds. Yeah. And so there's mature Ibex all around because the permit numbers are so low.
Yeah.
But it took a while to judge those things, like figuring out what a big one is versus a small one. I mean, they all just look awesome at first.
That's when we had to, the language barrier showed up again.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of carry on. We did our scenic trip where we went up where Dustin's horse Apache took away with him. Then we had it was probably like a 7-8 mile ride up to the spot. And we got up to this plateau and it was awesome. Like everywhere you looked, it was beautiful. Mountains in front of us, there's Ibex here. Everywhere you look, there's sets of Ibex, you know? So we're kind of laying out. It's a beautiful sunny day. Everybody's just chill. Like we're finally happy. We're here. We're in it.
Yeah.
Life's good.
Yeah.
And then we don't see anything like big Ibex wise. We can't do anything. We don't have a gun that's capable of doing anything. Yep. So we're like, oh, look, but don't touch. But Dustin's found like on another drainage all the way over, you saw like 5 big rams or what looked decent, and the guys got pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's like, no, we're not doing that.
And Jeremy was sick. Still.
Oh, he was sick. Yeah. He was in his pneumonia coma. He'd come out of his puffy jacket, look at the binos like, no, I'm not spending my time on those, and go back away again. Like, shoot, man, we have like 3 days to hunt here.
Yeah. We're only gonna wind up with 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time we get guns.
Yeah.
That scouting day was fun though, laying up there in the sun.
Yeah, riding back out that night was pretty cool.
Yeah. So then the next day, now we officially have guns.
Yep.
We're officially hunting because we have guns. We have 3 days left before we have to get back to the airport for our flight home. We've seen Ibex. We've ridden the horses. We've scouted.
Ibex.
We know where there's Ibex. Then we get into the giant negotiation at dinner around staying at camp, because we brought over all the Stone Glacier tents. We're ready for.
Yeah.
We planned on 6 days in the backcountry. We have 3 days left. We know where there's Ibex. We want 3 days now in the backcountry.
Let's preface, like, we have 7 bags of luggage. We have a whole city in luggage.
Yeah, every piece of gear you could think of.
Yeah, we did not expect to spend a single day in base camp. Like, we're gonna go in, roll out, and not come back again until we're done, right?
Yeah, we had cold weather gear.
Yeah.
We had everything.
Yeah, we got the phone call like 2 days before we had to like pack everything warm, and we get out there and like in our M7 pants. It's 50 degrees outside with long underwear. Dustin, if you guys want to know, is very cold-blooded.
I like my long underwear.
Oh my gosh.
It's like 70 degrees.
And he's in long underwear and M7 pants on the mountain.
But we get into like this international hostage negotiation over dinner around them taking us to where the Ibex were and setting up a 3-day base camp, essentially, is what we needed to do.
It's a 22-mile horseback ride.
Yeah.
Best we can figure. It's 12 hours on horseback.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, who's got pneumonia, and like The Walking Dead, he's like, I'm going to fly camp, and that's all there is to it. And like, all right, Dustin and I need to go get 2 animals down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing. So Barrett and Jeremy, you guys go to fly camp, and we'll go and, we found those 5 billies over there. We're going to go chase
Right
them.
to them, yeah.
We'll go up there, and we're like, all right, this is good. So we go and break the news to Jeremy and Barrett, and they're like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. I'm like, oh, come on, guys, work with us a little bit. Jeremy's like, I'm going to fly camp, and that's all I'm doing. And Barrett's like, I'm not going anywhere without you guys. And we're like, well, we just want to go hunt these 5 billies that are like maybe an 8-mile horseback ride. One guy says, absolutely not. They're not big enough. Another guy is like, I'm not splitting up. And we can't have one guy go off to fly camp, a 22-mile drive with, guides, and we go one way. So we have to come to some sort of like agreement.
Yeah.
And this is at midnight. We have to leave. We have to sight guns, 0 guns real quick in the morning, then roll up on horses and go.
Yeah.
We go to bed like nobody's talking to each other. You and I are
pissed.
trying to like instigate and get a plan, and nobody's working with us at all.
Oh, and the local dynamic, because we didn't realize this until like that moment of the negotiation dinner, was there's the guides who speak no English, and then there's Sultan, who he's like the negotiator guy, and then but the hierarchy over there seemed to be that the older man who ran the base camp was the real boss of that region of hunting, and all ideas needed to pass that boss. But it took us like 4 hours to figure that out.
Yeah.
That like the old man of the base camp is the boss of the hunting region, even though our local contact was there in the negotiation. He was more of just like a hunt coordinator. So no one was on the same page at all until we kind of figured out it was the old man that you needed to make happy. But then remember, they just like pulled a fast one on us.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, all right, you guys are right. You need to go to the backcountry. You need to be in the backcountry for several days. You need to be in fly camp. We're going to do it. You guys have the best idea. And then they just took us right to where the Ibex were we found when we were scouting.
Yeah.
And then they called it fly camp, which was not fly camp.
No, we were expecting a solid 10-hour horseback ride. And we rode for probably, 4.5, 5 hours, to the point where I got to the point, and I ride horses on a regular basis, like, okay, I don't know if 6 more hours of this is going to be all that fun and thrilling. Because we like crossing the river, cross again, we go up a trail. it got pretty steep, but it's just like we got spread out, and I swear to God, some of those guys were just like, let's make this as miserable as possible. They like would run their horses as fast as we can, and our horse would be like this miserable little trot, and then find its happy spot and keep its pace.
Yeah.
But I look back at Barrett, and he was starting to at the early stages of turning purple at this point on horseback. You know,
Barrett's horse kept taking bites of grass.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Barrett's horse would ride, stop, eat, and you hear Barrett screaming at something. The next thing you know, you look back, and Barrett's horse is just this most god awful, like trot canter thing, and you see Barrett just bouncing for 150 yards. All of a sudden, you wouldn't know it's coming, except your horse would all of a sudden pin its ears back, and like, here comes Barrett.
Dude, rear
and then
end you.
it full on run in and hit your back of your horse and start eating again, and then stop. It's just that horse is like a slinky everywhere it went.
Oh, it's
slingshot into the next horses.
Oh, that was a disaster.
I was doing everything I could to stay away from Barrett at that point. It was like and then he'd pass me. He's like, all right, fine, you're in front of me. And then it'd be the same thing. Slinky, slinky, slinky.
Yeah.
Finally, like, all right, we're done with this. I'd pass him, and I would get out in front. And we're probably stretched out over 1.5 miles of people now with guides and pack horses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Crossing rivers and stuff like that. It was just all of a sudden. And then finally, we stopped. And we're like, oh, this must be where we're eating lunch or something. And they're like, fly camp. And I'm like, hold up. It's 12:30 in the afternoon. We have 6 more hours. No fly camp.
It's
And
right below the Ibex we found.
All of a sudden, we're all watching where we saw those 5 Ibex rams at or fillies. And we're like, oh, we know where we are.
We're a mile underneath them.
Yeah, this worked out just fine.
And the locals had a cabin there that they never told us about. But they're like, you set tents there, we sleep in cabin.
Yeah. And we were fine, right?
Yeah.
I had no problem with it. I was like, we're good. I mean, it would be cool. If we had 6 days, it would be fun to go all the way back in there. But
yeah,
realistically, we would have ridden for 12 hours,
just
gotten
right
off,
past
hunted
Ibex.
into an area like there might be Ibex in there, there might not be. You know what you don't know what the snow's done.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's like, we got to go back. I'm like, no, we don't want to go back there. We know there's Ibex right here.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, Jeremy, his pneumonia got to the point where it's so bad that he even go.
Yeah, he's back in the room.
Yeah, he
cannot
stayed
move.
there. Yeah, completely like not moving, poor guy. And we go and hunt the 5 Ibex to go back into that country where we thought we were. So
Yeah.
we unload, we set up this massive Stone Glacier tent, and we're here for days.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. We make it all comfy and cozy inside, dress it up, like we're finally
We had like a Stone
here.
Glacier city built out.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Loved it. Everything all the gear that we had, we're ready to sleep in for the next 4 days. Like, we're in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they get up, they're like, all right, we're gonna go up and hunt those Ibex. So we're like, all right, cool, we'll go look and see what it is. And at first they take up this drainage, like, oh, that's not where we saw those Ibex. And then it cut back across, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, voila, we're right at the base of them somewhere.
Yeah. Perfect horse trail, right? Too.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I loved it. Horses are awesome. My stretchy to mountain tough classes were great, but it really paid off in the horse.
Well, you needed horse tough for this
You need
trip.
horse tough. This
Just-
cowboy tough.
My hips, my knee, the inside of my knee just burned so bad.
Did they?
Yeah.
You never let on. I was good to go. I was like, this is what I'm built for.
I would hop off and just stand there for a minute because my knee would hurt so bad. I had those horses.
Barrett. So I don't know. You'll see videos of Barrett. I'm sure they flash pictures up. But this guy's like 6'7".
Giant.
Yeah, and I look back at him, and he was riding his horse like this everywhere he went. Like, he could have reached down with his chin and touched his kneecap. The entire horseback ride. Like, this guy's gonna be destroyed.
He's giant. Yeah. And he gets the horse that will not stop taking bites of grass.
No.
He is a giant. He'd pull on those reins as hard as he could, and it'd still try to get a bite of
Horse
grass.
would fight right through it.
But yeah, they took us right to where the Ibex were
That we saw the
that
day
we had
before.
scouted
Yeah.
without rifles. So they took us exactly to the bigger ones that we found that they did not want to take us to.
Uh-uh.
But they took us there. We found them right away. And there was,
But we thought there's 5, right?
there ended up being like 30
Oh my God, they're everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
30 of them in this beautiful basin
It was cool.
coming off the cliffs. And as the sun started going down, they wanted to come off the rocks and feed in the green grass.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a bench.
Which we had to do a bit of a horse sneak to get to them, right?
Yeah, we did a cool horse sneak.
Yeah.
Like sneaking those horses up, keeping them under the rocks. And then we laid there to watch them. When we laid there to watch them and see which ones were the big ones, they were about 1,000 yards out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in a perfect sniper position. But it didn't look like at that point we were going to kill one because they were 1,000 yards out. We were looking for 500-ish or less.
Yeah.
And I didn't think they'd come out of the rocks the way like a mountain goat operates. But as soon as that sun moved, they wanted that green grass bad.
A couple of those lead Dannies started rolling down, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it went from 1,000 to 500, or probably like 650 pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, so Dustin and I are like crunched up in a ball, kind of peering through little holes in rocks to look at these things. Our guides are like, one guy's wearing a white jacket. 2 other guys in Russian camo, and they're sitting on the face of this thing with our binos, and we try to peek over there and like, oh no, stay down. So like, okay, so we're trying to stay low. We got the green giant who's got a purple head right now, with Barry doesn't have a hat on. He's like, yeah, I see him coming, and we're like, Barry, get down, man.
Barrett really wanted us to shoot one right away.
Yeah. He's like, I think you guys can sneak around this other corner and they'll be right there in front of you. And like, hey, man, they know what's going to happen. I'm sure these guys have been here before. They know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And Barrett's just like adamant. He's down below like, I'm telling you right now, you got to go around the side. They'll roll right into it. It's like, I'll do whatever the guy tells me to do.
It was so hard because you couldn't negotiate, because we should let people know that on these like Central Asia hunts, it's not like Montana where one great guy is going to be with you all day. Central Asia, the way they operate is like we're sending you with 6 guys.
Yeah.
So you're trying to sneak around with a dozen people on the mountain.
Yeah.
But then in moments like this where now we're on the sniper post, we probably can shoot one of these things, but you have no way to communicate with them because of the English barrier.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to give us hand signals on what to do.
Well, there's that. Then finally we got the call like, okay, go get into your guns. So you get into your gun on the left, and
Yeah.
I sneak into your right. And now we're tight in these rocks, right?
Yeah.
There's a rock on my right, and I'm crammed up against it. There's a rock on your left shoulder. You're crammed up against it. There's a little bit of space between our 2 elbows that we can shoot off, like some move to maneuver if we
Yeah.
do anything. All of a sudden, I feel something wiggling the back of my legs, and Barrett's in the middle of us now.
We're just crammed in
Yeah,
there.
we're crammed. So like, okay, so we're talking, and all of a sudden, about 3 minutes later, there's a Russian in between the 2 of us now, and we're trying to figure out. So our 5 rams that we thought were usually there have turned into like 30 or 40 billies.
Yeah, with a couple shooters.
Yeah, with a couple shooters, and then there's another band of billies on top, and all of a sudden it's like we're looking at these 5 rams, 5 or 6 in that group. I can't remember. It turned out to be like 8.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, that's your, and then these other ones show up on top, and they're like, no, on top. So then they kind of traversed on top, and I got to the point where they're like, oh, they're not going to come down in time. So then it got back to like, all right, switch to, these are much bigger now. Yes, we've decided that these are bigger. So we're like, and Dustin and I are talking between Barrett's head, like, which one are we shooting? And all of a sudden, this little Russian rolls back into it, and he has his hand up. There's 5. And goes, Dustin, yes. No, Peter, yes. No.
He's using his fingers
Yeah.
to describe 30 Ibex on a mountain.
Yeah, and they're milling about. It's not like it's a line of Ibex rolling off them. They're milling. And all of a sudden, Dustin, no, yes. Peter, no, yes, no. And it was just like, and I looked over at Dustin at one point. I was like, do you know which one you're shooting? He's like, I don't think so.
And then another Central Asia thing you might run into is they, in the middle of trying to read his hand signals off his fingers on which one to shoot. The old man like whispers in his ear, and then the whisper turned into, "Do you guys want to shoot more Ibex than you're supposed to shoot?" Conversation.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Because now there's like 5 mature ones in front of this rock, all in shooting distance. And he's trying to tell us the 2 biggest out of the 5 using his fingers, but they're feeding back and forth. So that was confusing enough. Then they stop that to try to sell us more Ibex tags
in the middle of it.
While we're laying on our scopes.
I forgot all about that.
So they're like, "Do you want to shoot all 5?" Like, we're like, "No,
they're
we're
like,
here for 2 Ibex."
2. And they're like, "No, 4." And we're like, "No, just 2." Yeah. "No, 4." And we're like, "No, 2. That's all we're shooting."
Oh my gosh.
I forgot all about that.
That was a disaster.
And meanwhile, Eric's trying to capture video of this stuff and fighting, like they're taking his binoculars and his spotter to look at stuff. And,
yeah, they used all our gear the whole time.
oh, yeah. I remember going over there with like 5 sets of binos and never using any of them.
They just had them.
They
the whole
took
time.
them all from me.
Oh, the Sig electro-optics, they just thought they were the coolest thing ever.
Oh, yeah. We had the new image stabilized ones. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember just walking around. I packed everything on my backpack and on my body. I get off the horse, and I'd open my backpack, and I have 3 Russians looking at me like, "I want that one. I want that one." And then one would be like, "No, not that one, that one." And then they give me something they had, like some knockoff thing. And like, okay. So I could look through one eye at this thing.
They definitely liked using our gear.
Yeah, it definitely made it easier for them.
So we end up turning down the idea of shooting more than we'd agreed to. And so now we're
next situation handled. One that we agreed we wouldn't do.
Oh yeah, they wanted the 3-2-1 bang
Shoot.
on 2 Ibex
Yeah.
at 500 yards.
Yeah. That was another like
So then we tried to
conversation.
practice.
Yeah, we were practicing. Dry fire 3, 2, 1. And you hear a click, click. And then they were like, "Are we supposed to shoot on 1 or 1 after?" And Barrett's like giving us the instructions, like, "No, man. It's 3, 2, 1. At 2, you shoot." So we shoot at 2 or 1? It's 2 and 1. So now do we shoot at and then 1?
Is it 2-1 bang or 1 and then bang?
And that was like 5 minutes of that conversation. Meanwhile, our Ibex are milling about. It goes 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. You shoot this one. You shoot that one. Not shoot that one.
These trips, there's a lot of negotiations.
Oh my goodness!
It's a lot of negotiating.
That you have to figure that's what the hunt is.
Yeah.
It's that adventure part of it. I mean, you shoot the animal. It's a great animal. It's awesome. You get home with it. But like, once you pull the trigger, it's done. It's like all of a sudden mission's completed. Now what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
But just that whole adventure part of it, the whole time, the stories you get out of it, that definitely makes a trip.
Yeah, so much adventure.
Mm-hmm.
The country is unreal. We ended up doing the 3-2-1. Peter and I both shot amazing billies.
Yeah.
They both are in that kind of 8-9-year-old range.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat to watch up on them and see just like that stuff. And then when we did go and gather animals and collect them and all that stuff, like the sun was setting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was just an awesome sunset.
The guy that we were butchering at night, like the sun had just got down. We got done with photos.
Yeah.
He's like, "Dustin, knife?" I was like, "You don't even have a knife?"
Didn't have knives.
What?
So all of our knives were gone too, weren't they?
Yeah.
God, I forgot. And knife sharpeners,
Headlamps.
headlamps, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Those guys are impressive, man. Like, talk about mental toughness. The locals, the young kids, and then the older guy. Those young guys, he was riding tennis shoes all day.
Mm-hmm.
They
Crossing the river, his feet were getting wet.
Those guys can just rally.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're so tough.
That's what we lost in America is that toughness.
Yeah. They have hardly any gear.
Uh-uh.
They can just work those horses anywhere, straight up, straight down.
Yeah, it was something else to watch. That's when you hope your kids are like, golly, I hope you get a little bit of this gumption in you.
Yeah, they're tough.
Yeah.
Those river crossings, man. There was definitely some times I thought I was going down in the river.
Well, you've got a current that's pushing you like, a pretty good river.
Yeah.
And these horses are stepping and stuff. You don't know if there's a massive boulder to try and step around because everything like all these big glacial rocks, they're big. And they might step on the top of a rock and they think they're footed, and all of a sudden they get up on top of it, the foot slips, the next thing they go down 3 feet, and you get this massive splash, or you walk into a trough, which one of us did.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
It was awesome.
We forgot about our 72-hour flight to get there.
Oh, yeah. Once you're on the mountain, you forget.
It's gone.
I think it was, I remember looking, it was 72 hours to land in country, and then a whole nother day before we had firearms. And then we got our Ibex. We left them on the mountain
That night, didn't we?
that night. We fully processed them, and then we left them. And then the next morning, you went with Barrett and Eric after Barrett's Ibex.
Yep.
And then I went and got the meat and the cape and the heads with some of the locals. How'd Barrett's go down?
It was fun. It's like you expected it to go down.
Yeah. His was big.
He's got a good billy,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, we separated from you, and then we rolled up into some mountains and busted a bunch of Marco Polo, and it was like, this was way more horseback than what we'd seen so far. Like, they were running stuff up naked hillsides, and just horses were just making switchbacks. And then all of a sudden, we ran into this. We got on this spine that rolled up to a ridge, and we found a couple ibex. We were looking at them. There wasn't anything big, and to get to them, it would have taken us a day of travel just to get over it. And we still had a finger of mountain that we were going to travel up to get to where we could go some further or go a little bit. So we got up on top of that, and we had to roll up on this spine, and it was getting sketchy on the horses. I was like, "Ooh, this is getting kind of
Straight up.
yeah, this is getting spicy in here." And you kind of, if you look to your left, it's like if you stepped off your horse, it was honest God like 8 foot before you hit ground. And so we did that, and I looked back at Eric, and I was like, and he was starting to get a little like white. I was like, all right. So I was like, hey man, when you go uphill, grab everything you have in that horse's mane, lean forward, and just ride it up the mountain. And he hadn't been doing that the whole time, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he got to the top, and I was like, that made the world home much better than just sitting up there, just, horse to take a lunge or step up a big step. And poor Eric would just be like, whoa.
Yeah.
So he did that. And Barrett, he was just kind of on his own. Sun was bright. You could just look back and see his different shades of purple going into his head with the heat and everything else like that. But our guy, we parked at one spot, and our guy kind of wrapped around and he found another kind of group of a band of ibex. But it's a little bit, it's actually our furthest hike we did to date on the entire trip. I think it's all 300 yards.
There was no hiking.
Nothing.
It was just horses.
So we had to kind of wrap around this kind of like this super rocky thing. We had to jump horses up onto rocks and stuff like that. And they had this, at altitude, they had this massive cactus tree that was just sticking these horses left and right. And they were just miserable working through it. So once we got through this cactus patch and got into it, we got to a spot, and we're like, oh, yeah, there's some ibex right there. And I looked back at Eric, and he's like, I forgot the tripod. I'm like, what? So he buggered back, and we're at 12,000 feet. And Eric's like, and I knew if I was going to do it, I was not going to make good time. And Eric's like, I'll go get it. It's like, I would die right now.
Lungs explode.
Oh, they were just walking up there. You could definitely feel that.
Yeah.
And I told you guys that in advance, like, as soon as I hit 10,000 feet, my body's like, you need to go way slower.
Yeah.
I just can't move fast. Everywhere I've been at 10,000 feet, I can tell you the minute I step at 10,000 feet, my body's like, you're done.
Oh, trying to run in that
Yeah.
country.
So Eric ran down, grabbed the tripod off a horse, came back up again, and Barrett's like on this thing.
On scope.
And like, Barrett, don't shoot, Barrett. Like, just let's get lined up. And I'm watching the thing through my spotter or my binos, and Eric comes back, drops the tripod up. I throw up my spotter on it, put my camera on it, and I'm filming these ibex. And all of a sudden, Barrett's like, can't find the animal anymore. I'm like, oh. And it's like 500 yards in front of us, and it's it's rocky. Everything looks like was like, turn your power down. And we're walking him into it. He's like, okay, I got it. And like, they're starting to kind of creep out of the screen of my field of view. And I'm like, Eric, don't shoot. Or it's like, Barrett, don't shoot just yet. Don't shoot, Barrett. And I was like, so I stopped the camera, reorganized. I'm trying to find the Ibex again. All of a sudden, it's boom. I look at Eric, and Eric goes, he just shot.
Just a big, beautiful Ibex.
That was great.
Off camera.
Off camera.
Oh,
That's where memories are made. I was like, Barrett, I said, don't shoot. He's like, did you see that thing? That was awesome. I'm like, okay, that's good. Good on you, buddy. Good job.
Oh, his was beautiful,
He
too.
shot a massive Billy. I think it hit like 49 inches, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was
just
what-
dark chocolate.
Yeah, it's what everybody talked about. Jeremy's like, who's poor sick at home at camp with pneumonia, is like, I don't want to even look at anything unless it's over like 49 inches. And
Yeah.
this is one of those Billies.
Yeah. That thing
So,
was a tank.
It was fun. You were collecting our 2 Ibex on the other side. And all of a sudden we get this thing done and we're like, man, it's going to be awesome tonight. We're going to have a big bonfire at the camp. You know, we'll set our heads up there. We'll get some cool video, stars going over. All of a sudden, pack your stuff up. We're leaving. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go back to the camp. Like, no, we need to pack camp up. We're going home tonight. And we're
Oh.
like, no.
They pulled another fast one on us. They started throwing out all these lies. They're like, capes will slip in next hour.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
Oh my gosh.
They just wanted off.
And we were like, Barrett and I were like, and Eric like, Dustin will put his forces up. He won't give in. He'll stand strong, and we'll have the night. You know, well, don't worry about it. Dustin's gonna stop this whole thing. So we roll off the mountain. Dustin's been at camp for an hour, and like, oh yeah, we're good. And all of a sudden, we come to the point where we should see camp, and tents are broken down, cots are packed up. It's like, oh no.
They like threatened my life, man. They wanted off that mountain so bad.
Oh.
They're like, meat will spoil, capes will slip, my wife will die. We must get off the mountain. I was like, man, I've had capes in the sun for a while. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, like we'll throw in the shade. We gotta cape them anyhow. All we do is just like
Yeah.
the head's still on, everything like that. They're adamant, like we need to get these things home for you to get them home in a plane. And we're like, no. And they're like, we'll have lunch, then we go. I'm like, oh no, we're actually leaving again. So we have our entire Stone Glacier City that we slept in for one night, that we flew for 72 hours of train trip that we sleep in one night.
Yeah.
Cots, food, sleeping bags, all that stuff for nothing.
10 days of backcountry food.
Yeah, for one evening.
I think it was a 10-day trip on the mountain hunting with a firearm that we brought was less than 48 hours.
It's less than 36 hours.
Less than 36.
Yeah.
Because it was a full day of hunting and then a half day. So a 10-day trip, 36-ish hours on the mountain with a firearm.
I think when we mapped it out, like timed it out, like us leaving camp, finding those Ibex, it turned out to be like a 3-hour hunt.
Yeah. That's crazy. Halfway, almost to China.
Yeah. You can see China.
Yeah, you could see China.
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours of hunting. That's what I tell a lot of people is it was really bittersweet because that country is so amazing. No one's in there. There's no other humans you're running into.
Nowhere.
No drainage. There's a lot of unexplored, untouched. All of them have Marco Polo, Ibex. The guides had tons of snow leopard footage on their phones. They have footage of Central Asian grizzly bears. You
wolves.
You want to spend like 2 or 3 weeks
I
up
know.
there.
And the thing is, like, this is not somewhere that somebody goes to vacation.
No.
Like, we go back in there to hunt, and a shepherd goes back in there to watch their livestock, and that's it.
That's it.
That's the only way that these things get. Maybe there's a smuggling around there too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's it.
Yeah. It's a great, they call it like the affordable sheep hunt. I'd say that, in my opinion, that's accurate. Like an Ibex hunt is super reasonable.
Until you fly home.
Yeah. there's a lot of sneaky fees that are going to hit you.
Yeah.
But in comparison, an Ibex hunt is very reasonable priced, and you're going to go into country that is some of the coolest country in the world.
The Marco Polo hunter is going to go into all that stuff.
And it sounds like you can do it in Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan. There's some ways to look at some of these hunts for people.
Yeah. I definitely like it. I think it checked my list.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go back again and be for like a month.
Yeah.
And just to wander, not to hunt. I think you go hunt, but I think it definitely go back for a month just to go see what's out there and just to explore.
Yeah. If you have the time, take the time.
Yeah. And do it that way.
Yeah.
And then and just check the box. It's an adventure just getting there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think half our podcast is because of us flying there.
It was a travel trip.
Coming home, it took us less than 27 hours.
Of course, the flights worked perfectly on the way home.
Murphy's like, I lost.
Yeah. Murphy gave up eventually. The way home was just like butter.
Yeah.
Not a single problem.
I know. We slept the whole way. The biggest thing, too, is like when we got home, you and I had to do a hunt within 12 hours.
Yeah.
So a whole way home, we were like, don't sleep. We can't hit jet lag. We need to get back onto our Montana timeline immediately because my kid and your kid were chomping at the bit to go deer hunting.
Yeah. Montana Youth Day.
Yeah.
I slept the whole time. I could not open my eye for more than 2 seconds.
Oh, my God. I'm telling you what. Dustin needs a lot of clothing and a lot of sleep. I learned that lesson.
I got to get my sleep.
Yeah.
Peter would be like, hey, look, man, don't fall asleep because you don't want to be all screwed up when we get home. I'd be like, got it. And then I'd have one eye that would close within seconds, and then I'd be out.
Where do we fly? Did we fly? We flew from Bishkek to Turkey and Turkey to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And that Chicago flight was 11 hours.
Yeah.
And I was fighting it like everything I had in me. And I looked over at you and like, no, don't, no. Because I know we're going back to Montana with crappy roads, wind, and 2 kids that are gagging to hunt.
Yeah.
And get after it.
It all worked out.
It did. It
was
a fun hunt,
It was
too.
a sweet trip.
Yeah. So
Well, thanks for jumping on, man.
It's
fun to break that trip down.
Good times.
I think Murphy's Law, just don't quit. I think anyone going on a trip like this, anywhere overseas, you're going to run into weird travel.
Oh, yeah. Just go with it.
You got to just roll with it.
And then you could beat Murphy on that stuff.
Yeah.
You can always beat him.
Yeah. Just when you get there, it'll all be worth it. Try not to get frustrated because anyone you talk to that's doing Central Asia Ibex, they're going to have similar travel disasters.
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Avoid afternoon flights.
100%. Avoid United.
United.
Hopefully they're not a sponsor.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.